The awakening storm. The cold vacuum of space stretched endlessly around the Zephyrian battlecruiser Dominator as it glided silently toward the mysterious structure orbiting Jupiter. Commander Velix pressed his scaled hands against the viewing port, his yellow eyes studying the strange cylindrical station that rotated slowly in the gas giant's shadow. The metal construct looked ancient by Zephyrian standards, yet their sensors detected active power signatures emanating from within its hull. "Commander, we're receiving automated signals from the structure," reported Lieutenant Kess from her position at the communications console. Her voice carried the typical mechanical tone of her species, but Velix detected a note of curiosity. "The transmissions are in the old human language. Our translators indicate it's some kind of research facility." Velix's mandibles clicked together in what passed for amusement among his kind. Humans had been extinct for 50 standard years, wiped out by a plague that had devastated their homeworld. The Zephyrian Empire had claimed Earth and its solar system as mining territory, extracting precious metals from the dead planet's crust. The few human structures they'd encountered had been primitive and easily dismantled. "Another relic from the dead species," Velix said to his bridge crew. "Scan it thoroughly. If it contains anything valuable, we'll salvage it before returning to Earth." He turned back to the viewing port, watching as smaller Zephyrian ships moved into position around the human station. Perhaps their desperation drove them to build something useful before they died out. The station's outer hull bore markings that their computers identified as belonging to something called the Titan Research Initiative. Velix had heard of human research stations from the old Conquest reports. Most had been laboratories working frantically to find a cure for the plague that was killing their species. None had succeeded. As the Zephyrian boarding pods attached to the station's airlocks, Velix felt a strange sensation. His species had evolved from predator stock, and something deep in his genetic memory whispered that this place was different. The sensation grew stronger as his troops began transmitting reports from inside the station. "Commander, you need to see this," came the voice of Sergeant Threx over the communication channel. "The humans didn't just abandon this place. Everything is still running. Computers, life support, even what looks like active experiments." Velix frowned, his scaled brow furrowing. "That's impossible. Human technology couldn't maintain itself for 50 years without supervision." He paused, considering the implications. "Are you certain there are no human remains aboard?" "None, sir. But there are dozens of what appear to be sleeping chambers. Our scans show they're still active, maintaining some kind of suspended animation protocols." The word sent a chill through Velix's spine. Suspended animation was beyond human capabilities, or so the Empire had believed. If humans had developed such technology, it meant their intelligence estimates had been completely wrong. "Threx, do not touch anything. Return to the ship immediately." But it was too late. As Velix watched through the viewing port, lights began appearing throughout the human station. Systems that had been dormant suddenly came online, and the entire structure began humming with renewed activity. Warning alarms echoed across the Dominator's bridge as their sensors detected massive power buildups within the station. "Commander," Lieutenant Kess called out urgently, "one of the sleeping chambers is opening." The main screen shifted to show the interior of the human station, where Sergeant Threx and his squad stood frozen in shock. A cylindrical chamber was sliding open with a soft hiss, releasing clouds of supercooled gas. From within emerged a figure that made Velix's blood run cold. She was human, unmistakably so, but not dead as every Zephyrian had believed. The woman appeared to be in her 30s, with dark hair and intense brown eyes that immediately focused on the Zephyrian soldiers. She wore a white laboratory coat over what looked like a military uniform, and her movements suggested someone accustomed to emergency situations. "Dr. Sarah Chen, Titan Research Initiative," she said in perfect Zephyrian, causing Threx and his soldiers to step backward in surprise. "I assume you're here because you detected our station's reactivation. How long have I been in suspension?" Velix found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. 50 years. Your species is extinct. Earth belongs to the Zephyrian Empire now. The human woman's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes that made Valex's predator instincts scream warnings. Extinct, she repeated calmly. That's interesting. Our projections suggested the plague would claim about 90% of the population, but extinction seemed unlikely given our preparation protocols. Preparation protocols? Valex demanded, his voice growing stronger as shock gave way to anger. Your species was dying. What could you possibly have prepared? Dr. Chen moved to a nearby console, her fingers dancing across controls that responded to her touch, as if they had been waiting decades for her return. The Phoenix Protocol, she said simply. We knew the plague would devastate our population, so we prepared for what would come after. Some of us went into suspension to preserve our knowledge. Others were relocated to hidden facilities throughout the solar system. The implications hit Valex like a physical blow. If humans had survived in secret, if they had been planning and preparing for 50 years, while the Zephyrian Empire strip-mined their homeworld, then everything the Empire believed was wrong. You're lying. Our surveys found no human survivors anywhere in this system. Your surveys found what we wanted them to find, Dr. Chen replied, her attention still focused on her console. We learned from our first contact with your species that you prefer to deal with primitive civilizations, so we made ourselves appear primitive, even as we prepared for the day we would no longer need to hide. On the screen, more sleeping chambers throughout the station began opening. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel emerged from 50 years of suspended animation, immediately moving to their assigned stations, as if they had practiced this awakening countless times. The efficiency of their movements made Valex realize this wasn't desperation or luck. This was a carefully orchestrated plan. What is the Phoenix Protocol? He asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. Dr. Chen finally turned to face the camera, and her smile sent ice through Valex's veins. Phoenix rises from ashes, Commander. We let our old civilization burn so that something stronger could take its place. For 50 years, while you've been mining our planet, we've been learning, adapting, preparing. She pressed a final sequence on her console, and every screen on the Dominator suddenly came alive with data. Star charts, facility locations, population counts, and most terrifying of all, ship registrations. Hundreds of ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields, behind moons, and within the rings of distant planets. You see, Commander, Dr. Chen continued, humans have a talent for taking what seems like a disadvantage and turning it into strength. You thought you were dealing with a dead species, so you became careless. You thought our technology was primitive, so you didn't bother to truly understand it. You thought our homeworld was defenseless, so you never considered that we might be watching everything you did. Lieutenant Kess's voice cracked with fear as she read from her instruments. Commander, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the solar system. Ships are powering up near Saturn, Mars, and the asteroid belt. They're everywhere. Valex stared at the data scrolling across his screens. Ship after ship came online, each one broadcasting identification codes that labeled them as part of something called the Phoenix Fleet. The vessels appeared to be based on human designs, but enhanced with technology that seemed decades beyond what humans should have possessed. How? Was all he could manage to say. Necessity is humanity's greatest teacher, Dr. Chen explained. When you began mining our world, we realized we had to become something new. We took your discarded technology, studied your methods, learned from your mistakes. Every mining operation you established became a classroom for us. Every Zephyrian ship that visited our system gave us new insights into your capabilities. The truth was becoming clear, and it horrified Valex. The Zephyrian Empire hadn't conquered humanity. They had given humanity exactly what it needed to evolve beyond recognition. You've been preparing for war. We've been preparing for survival, Dr. Chen corrected. War is simply one possible outcome. The Phoenix Protocol has contingencies for many different scenarios. including one where the Zephyrian Empire realizes that humans are not the primitive species they believed us to be. On the tactical display, more contacts appeared every minute. Ships emerged from hiding places that had concealed them for decades, each one representing human ingenuity and determination that the Zephyrian Empire had completely underestimated. They had thought they were dealing with a dying species, but instead they had given humanity the greatest gift possible: underestimation. "What do you want?" Valex asked, his voice barely steady. Dr. Chen's expression softened slightly, revealing the human capacity for mercy that existed alongside their demonstrated capability for strategic thinking. "We want what any species wants, Commander. The right to exist, the freedom to grow, and the security to raise our children without fear. The question is whether the Zephyrian Empire is wise enough to recognize that humanity is no longer the species you first encountered." As if summoned by her words, a massive shape began emerging from behind Jupiter's largest moon. The vessel was unlike anything in Zephyrian records, sleek and powerful, clearly built for both exploration and warfare. It moved with purpose toward their position, and Valex realized that everything was about to change. "Dr. Chen," he said carefully, "I think we need to talk." Her smile returned, but this time it carried hope instead of warning. "Commander, I think you're absolutely right. The Phoenix Protocol includes detailed plans for peaceful coexistence, but it also includes alternatives. The choice of which path we take is now in your hands." As the human ship approached and more contacts appeared on sensors throughout the solar system, Valex realized that the Zephyrian Empire was about to learn a lesson that many species had learned throughout history. Never underestimate humanity's ability to adapt, survive, and ultimately thrive. Phoenix Rising. Captain Marcus Stone stood on the bridge of the human battleship Phoenix, watching the Zephyrian fleet through the main viewport as his ship emerged from its hiding place behind Europa. For 50 years, he had dreamed of this moment. 50 years of preparation, training, and careful planning had led to this confrontation that would determine the future of both species. The Phoenix was humanity's greatest achievement, a vessel that represented everything they had learned during their decades of apparent defeat. Its hull incorporated salvaged Zephyrian materials, but redesigned with human ingenuity to be both stronger and more efficient. Its weapons systems combined alien technology with human innovation, creating capabilities that neither species could have achieved alone. "Captain, we're receiving communication from Dr. Chen aboard the research station," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. "She's established dialogue with the Zephyrian commander. He seems willing to talk." Marcus nodded, his gray eyes never leaving the alien ships arrayed before them. He had been a young lieutenant when the plague first struck Earth, barely 25 years old when humanity made the hardest decision in its history: to fake their own extinction while secretly preparing for the day they would reclaim their rightful place in the galaxy. "Patch me through to both Dr. Chen and Commander Valex," Marcus ordered. It's time they understood exactly what the Phoenix Protocol represents. The main screen split to show both the interior of the research station, where Dr. Chen stood calmly among her awakened staff, and the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, where Commander Valex looked decidedly less composed than Marcus had expected from reports of Zephyrian military bearing. "Commander Valex," Marcus began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent decades preparing for this conversation. "I am Captain Marcus Stone of the Phoenix Fleet. Dr. Chen has explained our situation to you, but I want to make certain you understand what you're facing." Valex's scaled features tightened. "Captain Stone, our intelligence indicated that humanity was extinct. If this is some elaborate deception—" "It's not deception, Commander. It's survival." Marcus gestured, and the tactical display behind him came alive with data. "When your empire first arrived in our system, humanity was indeed dying. The plague had claimed billions, and our governments had collapsed. We could have fought you then, but we would have lost. Instead, we chose to do what humans do best. We adapted." The display showed a timeline of the past 50 years, marking each phase of humanity's secret reconstruction. While you were mining our homeworld, we were studying your technology. While you were establishing colonies, we were learning your weaknesses. While you believed us extinct, we were becoming something new. Dr. Chen stepped forward on her screen. The Phoenix Protocol wasn't just about survival, Captain. It was about evolution. We realized that humanity needed to change if we were going to compete with species like the Zephyrians. So we changed. Marcus watched as understanding began to dawn on Velex's features. Show him the mining operation data, Dr. Chen. New images appeared on the screens, showing Zephyrian mining facilities on Earth and throughout the solar system. But now Velex could see what his people had missed. Human observers at every site, carefully studying Zephyrian technology and methods. What the? Every piece of equipment you brought to our system became a textbook, Marcus explained. Every mining operation became a laboratory where we learned how your technology worked. You gave us the greatest education any species has ever received, a 50-year advanced course in alien science and engineering. The implications were staggering, and Marcus could see Velex beginning to grasp them. The Zephyrian Empire hadn't conquered humanity. They had inadvertently created a hybrid civilization that combined human adaptability with alien technology. But we didn't just copy your methods, Dr. Chen added. We improved them. Human creativity applied to Zephyrian engineering has produced capabilities that neither of our species could achieve alone. To demonstrate, Marcus activated one of the Phoenix's most impressive features. The ship's hull began to shift and reconfigure, nanobots built with hybrid human Zephyrian technology, reshaping the vessel's structure in real time. Weapons emerged from hidden compartments, shield generators appeared along the hull, and the entire ship transformed from an exploration vessel into a formidable warship. This is what the Phoenix Protocol created, Marcus said as the transformation completed. Ships that can adapt to any situation, crews trained in both human and Zephyrian tactics, and a civilization that has learned to turn disadvantage into strength. Velex stared at the transformed vessel, his military mind clearly calculating the implications. How many ships like this do you have? Enough, Marcus replied simply. But that's not the question you should be asking, Commander. The question is whether the Zephyrian Empire is intelligent enough to recognize an opportunity when it presents itself. What kind of opportunity? Velex asked, though his tone suggested he was beginning to suspect the answer. Dr. Chen smiled. The opportunity to have humanity as an ally instead of an enemy. You've spent 50 years teaching us your technology. We've spent 50 years learning to improve it. Imagine what we could accomplish working together instead of against each other. Marcus activated another display, this one showing star charts that extended far beyond the solar system. The galaxy is vast, Commander, and there are threats out there that neither humans nor Zephyrians could face alone. But together, combining your experience with our adaptability, we could explore and protect worlds that are currently beyond either of our capabilities. The bridge of the Phoenix hummed with activity as Marcus's crew demonstrated the fusion of human and Zephyrian technologies. Engineering stations showed power systems that generated more energy than pure Zephyrian designs. Navigation displays revealed jump drive calculations that could reach destinations no Zephyrian ship had ever visited. Weapon systems combined alien firepower with human tactical thinking. You're proposing an alliance, Velex said slowly. But why? You clearly have the advantage. Why not simply drive us from your system? Marcus and Dr. Chen exchanged glances before Marcus answered. Because humanity learned something important during our apparent extinction. Violence should be a last resort, not a first choice. We could fight you, and we might win. But if we did, we would become conquerors like you were, and we don't want that for our species. Besides, Dr. Chen added, the Phoenix Protocol was always about more than just survival. It was about creating a future where both species could thrive. Your people have knowledge and experience that humanity needs. Our creativity and adaptability could benefit the Zephyrian Empire. Velex was quiet for a long moment, studying the data streams, and the impressive display of human technological advancement. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a new tone of respect. "What terms are you proposing?" Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders. After 50 years of preparation for war, the possibility of peace was more precious than any victory. Earth and its moon returned to human control. "Your mining operations on our homeworld cease immediately. In exchange, we offer to share our technological improvements and establish joint research facilities throughout the solar system. The outer planets and asteroid mining rights could remain under Zephyrian control for now," Dr. Chen added, with the understanding that human observers would be welcome at all operations and that any discoveries would be shared between our species. "And if other threats emerge in the galaxy," Marcus concluded, "humanity and the Zephyrian Empire would face them together, as allies rather than as separate civilizations competing for resources." Velix looked around his bridge, where his officers were analyzing the human technological displays with obvious amazement. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanity had not just survived their apparent extinction, they had used it as an opportunity to become something greater than they had been before. "Captain Stone, Dr. Chen," Valak said finally, "I believe the Zephyrian Empire has much to learn from humanity's example. Your species has turned what should have been your greatest defeat into your greatest victory. I would be honored to recommend this alliance to the Imperial Council." Marcus smiled, feeling the tension of decades beginning to release. "Commander, I think this is the beginning of a partnership that will benefit both our species for generations to come." As the Phoenix fleet emerged fully from their hidden positions throughout the solar system, Velix realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. He had arrived expecting to deal with a primitive, extinct species, and instead found himself negotiating with a civilization that had used apparent defeat as the foundation for unprecedented advancement. The Phoenix Protocol had succeeded beyond its creator's wildest dreams. Humanity had risen from the ashes of their near extinction, not just to survive, but to become something greater than they had ever been before. And now, instead of conquering or being conquered, two species would move forward together into a future that neither could have achieved alone. The stars stretched endlessly around them, full of possibilities that would now be explored by humans and Zephyrians working together, proving once again that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their weapons or their technology, but in their ability to turn any situation, no matter how dire, into an opportunity for growth and advancement. In the depths of space, the Phoenix fleet took its position alongside Zephyrian vessels in the first joint patrol of the solar system, marking the beginning of an alliance that would reshape the galaxy itself.